Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to another episode of the Get Geek podcast. I hope everyone's been doing well for the last week. Welcome back. This is our second week back on the Get Geek podcast. Let's basically get right into it. This is your boy, Jose.
This is Wolfie.
AJ.
Eli.
Yeah. And this week, we're going to have a couple of fun discussions about a couple of recent comic book films and TV shows. But first, let's get into some basic disclaimers. As we have been doing for quite a while now, we are recording remotely. So if there's any audio issues, artifacts, or other sound problems, please let us know. We are improving every week, we think. And if you disagree with that, again, please just let us know with any feedback that you have about the podcast. And of course, the best way to support your favorite podcast crew is to like, rate, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all your favorite podcast platforms. You know the spiel, all the Apples and the Googles and the Amazons and wherever else your favorite podcasts are sold. But anyways, we got some good topics to talk about for the last couple of weeks. So let's get right into it. What do you guys want to talk about this week?
Well, so I have been on for a while, so I kind of want to get a quick 2-minute recap on you guys' life. How's everybody doing and stuff? AJ, Eli, Jose.
Well, I recently got a few new books from my library. Pretty good stuff.
Nice.
Been watching some anime. And just to pop a few names out there, I got Paradise Lost. I've been meaning to own that for a while.
Nice.
One of the first hero stories ever, the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The Necronomicon. I also got that too. Some good old
Lovecraft. Evil Dead it up.
And then the last thing I got, which I actually told Jose prior to getting on, was this Legends book that concerns the Old Republic and a little old guy called Revan.
Which I'm semi-upset about because you weren't able to marathon through Knights of the Old Republic, and that's why you got a silly book instead of finishing that game.
I like reading.
I know, but hopefully they'll remaster the game, like has been rumored, and maybe you'll be able to play a better version of it that'll be more updated. Maybe that's what it is, but we'll hope. One can hope.
What about you, Eli?
Recently, me, AJ, and Walt have been rewatching We've been doing a Star Wars binge. We started from the prequels, and we're into Solo right now, right? We didn't finish.
You guys
it,
are doing it in chronological order or release order?
Chronological, yeah. Because why would anybody do it in release order?
Because of trying to experience exactly how everyone else experienced it, right? The way that people that grew up with it, like Walt, who's not with us, how he experienced it.
I guess.
And if you want to be confused, which is fun, which is Star Wars stock in trade to a certain extent.
And that's basically it, I think. Right?
And
nice.
Jose, anything new? Because I haven't I don't think that last time I was on this, it was 2020 and the world was ending.
Yeah, it didn't end. It almost ended.
It almost ended.
But it didn't. 2021, everybody wanted to return it. That was the joke initially, but
6 days.
It's better now, right? The last few days have felt better.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. The last couple of weeks. But as for me, I'm going to be semi-short and sweet because one of the things that I've definitely been up to, and I hope you've been catching up on it, is Attack on Titan Season 4, which is amazing so far.
Oh, God. I still
amazing. Try to get to it as soon as you can.
I have not had time to do anything. I got a PS5 and I haven't had time to enjoy it. I use the PS5 to fall asleep to whatever.
You looked at it once lovingly and
Yeah,
didn't touch it
I know.
after
I
that,
hugged
I
it.
would imagine.
I hugged it, and then I put it away in storage.
Oh
Dang.
man. And
Um,
other than that, I've been up to like what we're talking about today, really, with
yeah,
great excitement, which is some
which
good
is
stuff and stuff.
well, to great excitement because the first thing that we're going to talk about is a quick thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984.
Well, yeah, that's why I said to great excitement with some stuff and then like
Ah, okay.
stuff less overwhelmingly, I guess.
Well, so then let's get right into Wonder
Yeah.
Woman. Okay, so I would like to know. I mean, I think I gather because obviously we watched this during our hiatus, our little break. We took a few weeks off before we kind of got back on and to start this year's
Yeah.
season, so to speak, of the Get Geek podcast.
And welcome back,
Um,
by the way, man. It's good to have
yeah,
you back.
I
It's
know
awesome to
it
have
is
you back.
good to world's been
Welcome.
a bit upside down lately, but things are kind of falling back into place.
Hopefully.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Right?
Nice.
But yeah, so we all saw this obviously when it released, and we kind of spoke about like our thoughts here and there and stuff like that. But um, I don't know. I feel like my thoughts are going to be very different from the rest of the group's thoughts here.
Maybe
So
not totally different, but what do
okay,
you think? Maybe tell us what you think and then we'll
well,
contradict you.
I didn't totally hate it. I think that like the
Yeah.
internet and a lot of people definitely hated it, and there was a lot of stuff I felt like it was definitely a little bit too long, 30 minutes too long.
Hmm.
But I didn't totally hate it, and the reason I didn't hate it is because I kind of went into it with the obviously with the knowledge that this wasn't a film that's meant for the home viewing experience.
Hmm.
No film is. Movies are meant to be seen on the big screen, and then you watch a more
Hmm.
diminished version of it whenever you're taking it home, right? But the first time you see a movie, it should be on the big screen. And I think this is one of those films that I think there would have been a much better impact if you saw it on the big screen with the big splashes, like some of some of the moments and some of the shots were very clearly meant to be seen, on a giant screen with the thumping music. And we most people didn't experience that way unless you have your own home movie theater. So I feel like they're I kind of went into it, I guess, with an asterisk, right?
Okay. Okay.
So I enjoyed it. That's the thing. I enjoyed the film, and then when I saw all the hate online, I was like, man, I don't think it was that bad.
Well,
But
I hope that my opinion of the movie was not influenced by the thoughts of others. I don't think that it was, but so okay. My thing with Wonder Woman 84 with WW84 is the first and foremost problem that I have with it. I just want to bounce this off of everyone and see if y'all kind of agree. Um, regardless of whatever other issues I had with it, was that the central, like, fun and intriguing part to some extent from the first one was the relationship between Diana and Chris Pine, right? Between Diana and
yeah,
between those two characters, right? And in this one, it was, besides any other weird context on it, it just wasn't as good. And at least to me, I like the moments felt like they were just reversed, like a reversed repetition of the first one, where Diana was more the fish out of water, and in this one, you know, Chris Pine was more the fish out of water character,
right.
and it didn't work as well for me as it did in the first one. I don't know what you guys thought of that, because yeah, I thought that was a good part of the first one, a really good part of the first one.
Well, see, here's my thing about that. I I actually trend towards Wolfie.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the movie. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like you guys said, sure, it wasn't perfect, and there are some moral quandaries that can be brought up, but especially where Diana is concerned, where everything is about morals. But I still
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Like, one of the things, just whenever Pedro Pascal came on the scene, it was amazing. Because that guy, I just love how it's not our typical Maxwell Lord. He's like a a low rent swindler version, but it's not anything to be held against him. It's what makes the character amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't too fond of the fact that Maxwell Lord got powers because he's generally supposed to be like a Lex Luthor type.
Yeah.
So that kind of struck me as odd.
Although Lex Luthor has done something like that in the
Yes,
past
he
many times, where he's
has.
acquired powers or built something to give himself powers. But
Yeah, for sure.
in this movie, I think it was a little different the way that he acquired the power. That was also kind of odd. But continue, please.
The other thing, I'm trying to think here. Oh, the fight with Cheetah. That could have been better. That could have been
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Which one? The first one or the second one?
The one where
I
it's
guess
full on
spoilers,
Cheetah,
right?
not like
Yeah.
I'm kind of Cheetah, but not.
Okay.
Interesting. I thought that the fight scenes were actually really good.
No,
You know,
the
like
first
I
fight
thought that
with
sorry to interject, but I thought that
Mhm.
the fight with Cheetah, when she was transformed, was pretty good and pretty well played out. The only thing is that like the what's the name of the armor and all that. Like I felt like the armor
the
was
armor of Asteria.
underutilized. You know, yeah, I thought that the armor was underutilized, but then at the same time, I don't know. Like on second thought, I don't know that she should know how to use the armor if it's literally the first time she ever put it on.
Right.
Honestly, I
So
wasn't really digging the armor to begin with. Sorry.
yeah, I thought the armor was sick.
I mean, it
That's
is,
what
but
you know.
as yeah,
Sorry.
go on. So
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that the thing that I liked about the armor is that, you know, to me there was like a little bit of symbolism with like her. She has the armor on and she's covering herself with the wings and everything, and she's almost like kind of holding herself back, like as Wonder Woman herself. She's holding, you know, who she is back, right? So then in that fight scene, her kind of covering herself with the armor and not being able to do anything, just like kind of absorbing until she finally decides, like, you know what? I'm gonna shed these wings, so to speak, or I'm gonna shed what's holding me back and like fight for real. And that's kind of like what I felt was kind of like a little bit of like her story in this film that was kind of portrayed in that little sequence, right? The
I like
film
that
was
part
was
too.
was
Yeah.
her kind of holding herself back, holding herself from like doing one the right thing, you know, and not being selfish. Two, like from actually allowing herself to love again, you know, like not moving, you know, past Chris Pine's
Steve
character and
Steve
Trevor.
stuff.
Trevor. Yeah.
Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
Man, lost on names, but like not moving
So
past
was
that
I.
phase of her
Yeah.
life and stuff like that. So it's like the entire film. It was about how she's not letting herself move forward, and I felt like in that scene where she like sheds the wings, like it's like that's the moment that she finally accepted, like, hey, I'm you know gonna step forward. I'm gonna do what I need to do to move on, you know, not just in, you know, how she's fighting in that moment realistically, but also as Wonder Woman the character.
I can understand that, but the reason why I don't like it is because it's just there's already you already have a character with an almost identical getup, barring a few uh slippages in the armor, and that's Hawkgirl and Hawkman. So it was kind of like, really,
Yeah, but
Wonder Woman is a distinct character on her own. Like, why this?
I liked it. I mean, that's one of the parts of the movie that I did like. I thought like all the themes regarding the armor and it's how it was passed down from like a legendary
yeah.
Themyscirian warrior as well, and like that great cameo at the end for when we found out who she actually was I think pretty awesome. And I like the armor was cool, and like it was one of those nice misdirects from the trailer where in the trailer we saw the armor with the wings fully formed and like intact, and then in the actual movie we see the armor and her shed the wings, I guess, and it's like totally like the armor's already messed up from Cheetah like attacking it and all of that.
Yeah.
I thought the fight scenes were good too. Actually, I thought most of the fight scenes were solid. At least the fight scenes with Cheetah, I thought most of the other ones were kind of like, I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to build her character, but it still doesn't make sense in a way that in like 1980 or whatever, she is once again fighting crime. And then when we see her again in Justice League, she's not fighting crime again. I think there was a better way to do that thread. I don't necessarily blame this film on it though, because obviously the DCEU has kind of been a mess in terms of continuity.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the armor was cool, but like on the flip side, some of the big heroic moments that I thought were going to be great, like I wasn't necessarily expecting her to kill Cheetah at the end, right? And again, spoilers, but like the way that even certain lines were delivered when she like said she was sorry after like the very intense fight and her basically just dunking Cheetah into electrified water to like beat her.
Yeah.
Like it didn't fit necessarily like how the line was delivered and how that kind of ended, and the CGI could have been a little bit better. And I mean, to be frank, I think it would have been kind of awesome if we just got Kristen Wiig in like a different costume, because I thought the earlier fight scene had a little bit more weight when they were in the White House, I believe.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was a little bit better, and I thought like just the fact that Kristen Wiig's actually a very good actress, and I thought she
Yeah.
was a high point of this movie too. I
For
thought
sure.
like
She was
her
pretty good.
being able to like just deliver the lines as her instead of like the CGI Cheetah version of her, I thought that would have like landed better too. But
Well,
those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Well, I
And-
respect both of your opinions. I think that you guys have amazing pictures, but there's only one opinion that really matters, and it's Eli's corny meter opinion.
Yeah.
Oh well,
So
just to wrap up, because I wasn't quite finished.
What's
So
okay?
Yeah.
yeah, to wrap up, the only other thing that I guess wasn't well, first off, let me note that Walt had much more egregious criticisms with the film, and he wanted me to let you guys know that.
I have some
Oh,
of the same
boy.
ones, I think.
Yeah,
So
and
we
so
don't have
like
to get too deep into
I do know
Yeah.
Walt's criticisms, and
yeah.
man,
So the very last
they were
thing,
bad.
and I know this is going to somewhat relate to what Eli is going to say in a moment,
Mhm.
is that it seemed incredibly happy-go-lucky. And I normally don't have a problem with that, and that wasn't a problem with that a lot with me per se, but generally, Wonder Woman can be light, but she's also a little she's steeled. And at this point, I would have imagined her to be a little more steeled,
Yeah.
but she wasn't. But again, for me at least, that's kind of it's a minor bordering on, kind of
Yeah.
bigger criticism.
Yeah, I definitely want to
Yeah.
let Eli speak, but
Yes.
I have to say I agree with that, because in the comics, she's actually more like of a badass than Batman or Superman. She's
Yeah,
more
but,
willing
like-
to do what's necessary. But
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
how? But someone doesn't. Someone isn't born like that. They got to get there.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
and that's fine. That's fine. That was just to me like
Yeah.
I want to see her get there, and I think we haven't seen hints of that yet. But I'm super curious to hear
Elijah.
Eli's
Eli,
corny
take the floor.
scale rating.
Okay, so
Oh boy,
I don't know if I'm ready for this.
it
I was about to
sucked.
say the same.
It sucked.
How badly though?
It sucked.
Because
It
everything
sucked.
sucks to you. So like you saying that it sucks is like okay, but
No, like this was like, how do I put this? Rise of Skywalker type stuff. That's the territory this got into.
Like
Rise of Skywalker.
whoa! It was not that bad.
I beg
Rise of Skywalker did make no sense. Okay, this
I
at least
mean-
made some sense.
This made sense, but like, I don't know. It wasn't. Nothing about this was really delivered right. It just seems so cringe.
Nothing.
Yes, nothing.
Not even one
nothing.
thing. Because I liked some things, and I really didn't like the movie in the end.
It just
It's gotta be
seems so.
one.
It just seems so weird.
Can you point to one thing that you really liked and the thing that you hated the most?
Just one. That's all we're asking for.
Just
Yeah.
one. That's all we're asking is just one.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know one.
Not a single
I
thing?
didn't like it at all. I
Okay.
just
Damn.
didn't. I walked into this
Damn.
movie knowing that this would be a bad movie, and I didn't. I was
Is
not
see,
disappointed.
that's your mistake. That's your mistake. Why did you walk in knowing that it was how could you know it was gonna be a bad movie
It's
considering
DC. It's DC. It's the DCU.
yeah,
It's
but
The
the last Wonder Woman
DCU
movie
has
was
gotten
really
better.
good.
Yeah.
The
Not
last
that
Wonder Woman movie was really good.
Shazam
Or
was
the first
good.
one.
Aquaman was
Shazam
good.
was good. Aquaman
Joker was
good.
good.
But still, I don't
Yeah.
have that. For things, it just
It's understandable that you don't have high expectations, but
yes.
to say that you knew it was gonna be bad going in means that you're
I know,
already
but
going in there like mad negative.
the
Eli, that's
trailer though.
terrible. That's
The
terrible.
trailer though. Okay.
The trailer was awesome.
Oh wait, I have one good
That's the
thing.
one thing that DC knows how to do is good trailers. Remember that
The Weird
Suicide
They
Squad
Thunder.
tell
trailer?
too much, though.
Yeah, they tell too much. So
They
that's
do. They do.
I already
That's
knew
true.
like what the plot was of this movie, and
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the only thing I really liked was
Ooh.
the thunder thing.
I actually did not like that, but
I
good
like
for you
that.
that
I
you
like
liked that.
That was
With
pretty
her
creative.
her
So
swinging
AJ,
from
Her
the
riding the lightning.
why
Oh
didn't you
man.
like that? Because I thought that first of all,
Yeah,
we can
it was
find this.
good.
We can find this in previous podcasts. You thought that was one of the coolest things when you saw the trailer.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, you said you like
As did
blew
I.
your top.
I mean,
Can I semi interject because I remember this exact moment in the previous podcast. I pointed out to AJ that she was swinging from the lightning, and he looked at the trailer again while we were doing the podcast and was like, "Holy freaking crap, that's awesome!"
Yeah.
Can I, AJ? Do you agree with this slight assessment? You know what I didn't like about that part?
what?
There was nothing in it besides what we already saw in the trailer. I thought it would be a little bit longer
Yeah.
and cooler. And that really annoyed me because I thought it was so cool in the
Yeah,
trailer.
yeah.
That is part of it. That is.
Well, what else is it? If
I mean,
it
after a
wasn't that?
while, like, once you know how to fly, what even is the point of that? Aside from, oh, look, I'm airborne Spider-Man.
Yeah, you have a point there.
Sorry.
That is a good point. Yes, as well.
But okay, so what? So she's airborne Spider-Man. Like what? Like
When you can fly,
what's wrong with that?
would you if you could fly? Would you rather take a plane or actually fly?
Why can't
Well,
she fly in
actually
Justice
fly.
League?
Yeah,
Or Batman versus
that's
Superman?
another thing too.
Actually, I thought the learning to fly scene was pretty cool, but like that was
That
still
was, but
yeah.
It just seems so fan. It just seems so whimsical, right? That's the word for it. Yeah, it just seems so
Mm.
whimsical because like when you have unlimited wishes. I mean, you have wishes, right, to do whatever the heck you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that not one person wished for the world to be gone. I mean, that just seems so
That's dark, bro.
unlogical.
That's
again,
super
that's
dark. But then again,
assuming
that's
you
also
think
Eli.
everyone's a
Eli is
piece of
pretty
crap.
dark. So.
But it is true. One person at least
Okay,
in the
but
world.
some people, for instance, in the case of the director, they clearly don't seem to think that.
That's just it's just so it's such a fantasy sort of thing where like literally everything is like you said happy go lucky and stuff like that, and I just didn't understand that. I didn't like that because I preferred it. I really preferred it when DC was a lot darker.
It should
Well, I
be a
mean,
little bit
you
darker,
prefer the
I would say.
Snyderverse, basically. You prefer
Snyderverse.
Zack Snyder's, vision for DC, which
Sorta.
I agree. Like I like that approach just because it's a contrast to Marvel. I don't like when competing brands try to compete by trying to like one up them on like one specific attribute, right? Like, oh, we're gonna
Mhm.
be funnier than Marvel. We're gonna be more colorful than Marvel. We're gonna
Yeah.
have like more tropes than Marvel. Like, no, like kind of do your own thing. You have your niche and compete with them on the creativity of the storytelling, the character development, and on finances. How good you do at the box office, not on, well, we need to catch up to them on all these little metrics, right? Because then it becomes a whole metric game, and it just all becomes a blur. To me, it's what kind of gives me Marvel fatigue, right? Like every single Marvel film to me, like in the end, they start kind of looking too similar to other films, to other Marvel properties. So I'm just like, I don't know, like this has kind of been like done before. Like it's the same jokes, the same action sequences, the
Yeah.
same kind of cool like rock music and all that. Like it was awesome in Iron Man 1 and still awesome in Guardians of the Galaxy, but I'm also a little bit like expecting it now. But now
Yeah,
to
well,
see that, if I'm trying to see that also in DC, it's like, oh, come on, guys.
here's the
DC
thing.
should have differences. I
Here's
agree.
the But here's the thing: there are ways to do differences without screwing it up. Like you don't have to be like Marvel. There are ways to do it. They're just
Right,
taking the
absolutely.
wrong approach.
Yeah, I think giving Maxwell Lord the wishing, but making him the genie was a mistake to begin
Yes.
with.
You know what? Yeah.
Then you wouldn't even have to worry about the whole wishing conundrum.
Yeah, because honestly, the wishing conundrum was one of the main bad things of this movie. Because I mean, it just here's my main grope with a lot of movies and a lot of shows, especially Supernatural. When
Mhm.
you give somebody too much power, that causes a lot of trouble. That causes a lot of trouble for the movie.
Like the consistency of the character and the consistency of the story. You mean, or like
Yeah, like
okay,
like that. Because
hmm
yeah, and I just Maxwell Lord's character was good at the beginning, but then he changed, and I didn't like it.
You know what it is? I think that like in the further along that the story went, it's not so much that he changed, it's just that they made the story too convoluted.
yeah,
When you now make it where like, okay, he's just gonna grant wishes to everybody, now it kind of becomes a little complicated. Just like you said, like, well, now you're leaving too much room for error and
Yeah.
ambiguity, and that just kind of starts fading the story away as like, all right, his character no longer makes sense,
yeah.
right?
It kind of got difficult by the end of the movie to figure out exactly, specifically how the wishes worked.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of
Well,
a
it
flaw, I
was
think.
Mm,
Not
actually
totally.
pretty simple.
It was, but
yeah.
like it was like, do certain wishes counteract each other? Like, do people have to renounce their wish in order for like everything to go back to normal? Because that for me
Well,
was kind of
Yeah.
like, there's no way that everybody on Earth would renounce their wish.
I mean,
That's not going
look,
to happen.
look. I guarantee you that like there's at least one person in 7 point something billion people that
Hmm.
are wishing for world peace. You can
Yes,
tell me
but then
nobody
like
wishes for
But
world
AJ,
peace?
or like I'm sorry, like Eli said, there's somebody that's wishing for the opposite. So like, how did that work when everything rolled back?
Well, like for example,
yeah.
then it would happen. It would have to be like who wished it first. Maybe someone decided to wish like for like the end of the world, and this is how the end of the world was happening. Like it's
But there
just
was so
there's too
many
much.
different
Like
wishes
that's
too.
that's
You
what it
know.
makes. That's what I'm saying. Like it makes
yeah.
the story too, unpredictable, left to too much ambiguity, too much
Yeah.
margin for error, and it's what kind of destroyed the Maxwell character. Towards the end, like it just kind of stopped making sense. When you start asking yourself, like while you're watching the movie, like if you're questioning like whether
Yeah.
his character is making sense, then he just no longer does,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It stopped making sense like probably about halfway into it, and nobody really knows why he had to glow. To me, anyway.
Yeah,
Like he had
right?
to stand under that thing and kind of do his voguing and glowing, and like actually Pedro Pascal, as always, was fun for
Yeah.
sure in the role,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah, if
he
anything, he
didn't have
salvaged the
anything to work
character.
with
I
by
think that
the end.
in anyone else's hands, it would have, not done as well. So,
Really
Practically, I
bad.
agree with that. Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of other people wouldn't have been able to
Um,
pull it off with as much fun. Yeah.
so- but yeah, personally, like I do kind of want to watch it again, which I'm probably gonna try to watch it. I
Mhm.
might try to watch it tonight, to be honest with you, just because I want to see it again without the cloud of the expectation of the film. We've been waiting for the film for over a year, and then all the social media stuff, because it really does have an influence whether you like it or not. Like sometimes you read a lot of comments and then you start thinking like, oh, you know what, maybe it did suck, and I kind of want to watch it with all that stuff in the rear view.
I
I
have.
highly recommend Walt to try to give it a shot because I feel like Walt is a very, very harshly um judging this
Well,
film.
he gets spoilers a lot more than we do. Number one, and this like for a small amount of context for when I saw it, which I
Yeah.
think adds to the maybe I'm not totally crazy about this being
Hmm.
weird. Like I read about one of the problematic aspects, and that being like Chris Pine, Steve Trevor, basically hijacking some other dude's body.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like he came back to
No.
life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get too into why that's weird. I think pretty much everybody knows why it ended up
No,
being
it's
weird
weird.
in this
It's
movie
weird.
on many levels, right?
It's totally
Um,
weird.
but like I saw it again with my girlfriend Claire, and she didn't hear about any of that before we saw it, and for her it was super cringe too to see like how
It
that
was.
guy's body got hijacked for various purposes that will not be mentioned on this podcast. But also like the worst part was like the twisting of the knife at the end when that guy came back after like she basically allowed Steve to pass finally into the afterlife and not like body snatch that guy's body, and she ran into him again. They had that little flirtatious moment. That was
Yeah.
super awful and super weird. And I'm like, I have other issues with
Yeah.
it, but I'm not going to go too deep into it.
You know
I
what it
didn't
is.
hate
I
it as
put
much as
that.
Walter, though.
You know what it is. I put all that in what the film was. The film was an homage to like 80s movies and 80s cinema and 80s
Yeah,
television and stuff like
like
that.
Big and stuff
That
like
kind
that.
of
Yeah, I can
thing
see that.
happens in those kind of movies where like by some perfect twist of fate, she happens to run into the guy that she was, you know, basically seeing
Yes.
as her, you know,
But
ex-boyfriend
I
Chris
mean, in
Pine.
this day and age,
You know
though,
what I mean? Like,
I think they could have fixed the trope a little bit.
well,
That's all
but
I'm saying.
it's really funny because this day and age, and our next topic is going into something else that revisits another era in
Yeah.
cinema. But before we go on to that, does anybody have anything else that they want to say about WW84 at all?
It sucked.
You
I
already said
wouldn't
that.
say,
Anything
okay, look,
else?
I wouldn't
Else?
say it sucked. I just think the story could have been amended a lot better. But otherwise, I liked it.
It
It
did.
wasn't horrible.
You're right
Can we
about
give
that.
it? Can we give it a number real quick?
It did have
Sure.
potential.
All
Um,
right.
okay, I'll go first. For me, it was, uh, I'll say it was a 4. I didn't like it at
Oh
all.
man, you didn't like it at all.
I didn't like it at all, and I
Okay.
didn't get too deep into it, into why. And I am gonna watch it again, just like you are, Wolfie, to see if maybe it was just some like subconscious thing from all the hate that it got
Yeah.
before that. But I don't think I'm gonna like it any better. What about you guys?
I gave it a 7. I think that there was a lot of flaws in it, but it was still enjoyable enough. You know, I thought that there was a, you know, I like, you know, when the, you know, her character, Gal Gadot, you know, killed it personally. I thought Kristen Wiig was amazing, you know, for her, you know, in her ability. I thought the story was definitely lacking, but and I thought that CGI wasn't great. But I don't think it was absolutely terrible. Like I don't think that it's an unenjoyable experience. That's my thing. It's I don't think that I can like flick through the channels if there were such a thing these days, which I don't think there are. But like if it was on, I don't think that I would skip over it if I was doing nothing. Like I can see myself like playing it in the background and still kind of enjoying moments in the film. So, oh, by the way, I gotta say, I personally, I mean, I'm like a low key secret, like, you know, fashion nerd sort of, and I thought that the costume design, as far as like Godot's, you know, outfits and everything, the sets, I thought that the costume design was really really good. So that's my personal opinion. Anyway, a 7 for me.
I'm going to, it's just really quick and funny because Walt said that he actually didn't like Gal Gadot's performance in this movie.
Hmm.
Just as like a quick sidebar.
Yeah.
As for me, I'm going to give it a barely passing grade. I'm going to give it a 6.5
Okay.
because, like I said earlier, it was good. I enjoyed it, but there are still some pretty glaring problems with the movie.
That's fair.
So,
That's fair.
in
For
a
sure.
nutshell, that's me. Let's take it Mr. Corning of Sir Cornell of the Master of Corn.
giving it the benefit of the doubt, and also that I don't hurt anyone's feelings.
And
You care about people's feelings? What? Man,
What?
2021 really turning on new leaf.
Oh my god.
oh yeah, and I don't want to discredit the actors and the directors because they did a good job. It's just the
Yeah,
writers.
they did
I will say that like I think that it's in the writing department that it kind of failed.
Yeah.
yeah, like they put out a finished product, they thought it was good, so you got to give them that.
You guys ready?
Oh god.
2.5.
All right,
That
but
is
what was
probably
what
your
was, what was
lowest score on the podcast.
Yes.
is it? No.
Yeah.
Didn't you give
2.5.
you gave Rise of Skywalker a 1, didn't you?
Okay, well, maybe barring Rise of Skywalker, but we
Yeah.
never
Why not?
discussed Rise of Skywalker on this
If I
podcast.
gave that thing a 1, then you know what?
Hmm.
Without hurting everybody's feelings, I
Oh,
would give
God.
that a 1.5.
Oh
There we go.
All right. All right, well, we have our scores then. Before we move on to the next subject, which is going to be WandaVision and where we're at right now on WandaVision, just gonna ask you guys to take a moment, to like, rate, share, and subscribe while you're listening to the podcast. And if there's anybody that's interested in Wonder Woman or anything nerdy, anything geeky, or is interested in, WandaVision, and you like what we're talking about, please hit the share, send it to someone so they can start listening. And thank you guys all for subscribing if you already are. So anyways, with that being said, WandaVision. Again, I wasn't on the last podcast, so I kind of want to give my thoughts on the first 2 episodes before we go into the third episode. And it's, at the very least, I can say that it's a very interesting start to a show, but it's also refreshing to me, you know. And here's why I think that it's refreshing. Um, we've kind of been out of the MCU for some time now, right? Like Endgame happened, we've
Yeah.
had like Spider-Man and all that stuff,
Yep.
in between that time. But to kind of bring ourselves back into the MCU, I I like that we're not going right into superheroes, saving the day, conflict with other supervillains and all that stuff right away. I like that we're going to it from a completely different approach, in the sense that we're being given this kind of experience with WandaVision, and rather with WandaVision, and how each episode is kind of like a different enema enema
Not an enema.
a different era in television, history, right? So
Yeah.
we got like the I Love Lucy, you know.
Yeah.
In the first episode, we got basically the honeymooners, kind of, in the second one. And in the third one, we're getting the Brady Bunch, So it was cool to kind of see that,
Definitely Bewitched too in that second episode. But a lot of
Actually,
Bewitched
no,
vibes.
Bewitched more in the first one.
In the first one,
I
well, I
think
feel
so.
like
More Bewitched in the first
the
one.
second one kind of had the similar theme song too. I think, right?
Did it?
WandaVision.
Yeah, I think Walt said something similar too.
I didn't put that together, actually.
Yeah, it
I
was
didn't think
like
about that. Oh,
I didn't put it together right away too, but I was like, that
Nice.
theme song sounds similar to something else. And I was like,
Oh
it's
man.
Bewitched.
So
But like
to
they
me,
all had different influences. Yeah.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, but to me, that's kind of refreshing. Like, and the other thing too is that, like, it's also refreshing because we don't, the shows aren't made like that anymore, with like the laugh tracks and like the happy go lucky
Yeah.
couple, and the ridiculous kind of choreography on the set, you know like it's just, we don't see that anymore. So it was kind of nice to see that again, even if we're only going to see it for a few episodes, and it's not going to be the entirety of the show, because I don't
Yeah.
believe that that's what it is.
No.
So that's kind of my thoughts on the first 2 episodes. Also, I think that like Paul Bettany is an amazing actor. Just seeing how like he played a drunk robot in Vision, because he had gum stuck in his gears. I thought
Gummed up
that he
the
was
works.
hilarious.
Mhm.
And I just personally, I think that like it's going well, even though it's not, I think, what anyone expected. But with the third episode, which we're on right now. Just a quick little synopsis of the episode. We end the second episode with Wanda. Oh, and the other thing too that I kind of like is the fact that they're not just leaving everything up in the air to the viewer with like, hey, you're watching these kind of these episodes that are set in specific TV timelines and stuff like that, but we're still getting like little breadcrumbs that are bringing us to the actual MCU Wanda Vision reality,
Yes.
right? Every episode, and a little bit more in each episode. Like at the end of the second episode, we get that weird scene where like, you know, the guy's coming out of a sewer, you know, in his you know, beehive suit with bees following him and stuff like that, and she rewinds and goes back to the living room to kind of
No.
erase that, right? So she's erasing that part from that reality, which is giving us a hint and foreshadowing to where we're going, right? I have my prediction on what this whole all this means. But anyway, we end the second episode with Wanda pregnant, seemingly pregnant out of nowhere. And we start this new episode, which is set kind of in like the Brady Bunch kind of look and era, with her getting a diagnosis from a doctor saying that she's, you know, 4 months pregnant, basically in 12 hours.
Dr.
Which,
Nielsen,
yeah.
like the TV ratings.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So that right there is telling, right? Because obviously reality is extremely warped if this is what's happening. And then this episode is dealing with that whole pregnancy. So, what did you guys think of the episode? What did you guys, you know, enjoy from it? Anything that you guys want to point out or speak about on directly?
I enjoyed that very tense part at the end where it looked like Wanda was gonna rip what's her name, a new one.
Geraldine / Monica Rambeau.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's like, hey, didn't your brother die to Ultron? And it was like a trigger word. And it was like, what the?
What did you say?
What did you just say to me? Why did you say that name?
Yeah.
And it was
I mean,
like
that right there. So like that right there is telling for me, right? Like, because it's, you know, we're kind of getting like, you know, people's covers are getting blown clearly. So just to kind of recap the rest of the episode, right? As she's going through the pregnancy, essentially in the entire episode, she goes from 4 months pregnant to basically 9 months pregnant, and I don't know where she goes into labor. And her going through labor and going through all like the issues, her psychic powers and abilities and all that stuff, reality bending abilities, it's all kind of going haywire, right? Like plates and you know, things are transforming, being thrown, flipped, you know, all that stuff.
I thought that was a cool moment when you first saw her kind of semi lose control, quote unquote, when the butterflies above the
Right.
cliff
Yes,
start to
yes,
flutter.
exactly. On the stork, I thought it was really cool. You know, I've actually
That
never
was an
seen a
awesome
stork
moment.
in real life. That's the first time I saw a stork.
Really?
I,
Yeah, you
you know,
only
now
see
that
the
I think
pictures and
about it,
stuff
I've
like that,
only
right?
seen storks in like cartoons explaining how babies are delivered and stuff.
That was
So
the creepiest stork I've ever seen in my life.
it was so creepy, but it was really funny. So anyway, Wanda ends up giving birth not to one, but two babies, a set of twins.
Tommy and Billy.
Right.
Does that ring
You
a
know?
bell at all to anyone in the room?
Nope,
No.
it does
No.
not.
You know, I only have a brief, you know, memory of her children. You know, but it's weird
you
though
know
because
their superhero names. Yes. Right? Okay, so all right, I'm gonna break it
give
down
us the
for y'all.
recap.
I'm gonna break it down for y'all. I mean, I'm not gonna get into too deep of a storyline behind it, but like essentially Tommy and Billy are Wanda's twins from the comics, Wiccan and Speed.
Right.
And they are mutants
Right.
in the comics. They actually use the proper names for them here. So that's definitely hinting at something, I would say.
Right. But see, here's the thing though.
Maybe not necessarily them though. Maybe not necessarily Wiccan and Speed. So
Well,
what's your theory?
the thing is, all right. So let's so the rest of the episode ends basically. Geraldine is in there and they're talking, and Geraldine starts kind of cracking, you know, mentioning things that kind of breaks Wanda's, you know, I guess dream state. Essentially, she starts kind of like questioning, like, wait, who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing here? And this, that, and the other.
Lucidity.
And then at the same time, outside Vision is also kind of like having a weird conversation experience with what are the characters' names? Do you guys remember their names?
Herb and
Yeah, Herbert
Agnes.
and Agnes, right?
Hmm.
And they clearly have secrets that they're hiding, but they end up not, revealing their secrets and stuff. Herbert seems like he wants to tell Vision,
Hmm.
but decides not to.
Right. He goes
And
a couple of times because we're something like that. We're all here because,
yeah,
right?
we're all here because
But he
blah blah
doesn't
blah, right?
finish, and like Agnes cuts him off. Hmm.
Right, exactly. So then Vision goes back inside and he's like, "Where's Geraldine?" And Wanda, looking kind of a little bit psycho, I guess, for lack of a better word, she just says she's looking over her babies and she says, "Oh, she had to leave. She's gone to a faraway land or something like that." And then we cut to Geraldine being like thrown through some sort of portal or invisible wall onto current land, and then we get like the sweeping camera angles of like the Humvees and the helicopters, and very clearly this is the modern day,
It looks
right?
like sword agents and all that, but I don't know if
Yeah.
we saw a complete confirmation of that. Other
I mean,
than
Well,
she
we
was
also we got
wearing
we
another
she had the logo. She was
necklace.
wearing the
Yeah.
necklace with the logo.
right, right, which is one of the things that Wanda definitely noticed in
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And I
And
like
so
it's like I think the other thing that's kind of like super important to mention is like that conversation between Herb and Agnes. They were talking about Geraldine, right?
yeah.
Like she's an outsider in some way. They were like she doesn't have a
Oh,
home
you
here.
think
She
that
doesn't
she's an
belong here.
outsider? I don't know if she's an outsider.
Well, I mean, just the way that they spoke about her. The way that they spoke about her was like, remember, because they were saying like she's new to town, like she doesn't like basically they were saying she doesn't belong here, no home was like something that Agnes specifically said about Geraldine in that moment. So I don't know. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know
You think
who's an
different factions
outsider.
working against each other?
I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case, but like
Hmm.
that might be what it is. They might all be brainwashed. I mean, I think that's slightly part of it too. Like maybe Wanda is doing some brainwashing to keep the reality together, but maybe somebody else is also trying to do something like
I don't
separate from
know.
that. There's a lot of theories that
Well,
ooh,
so here's my thing, right? So but actually, before we get there, like just generally, I want to know like what you guys thought of the episodes, just real quick, of this last episode. Did you guys like it? Are you guys is your interest peaked? Do you guys want to kind of, get to the next episode already? Like, for example, The Mandalorian, we just couldn't wait till the week was over to watch it. Or do you guys feel that same kind of excitement?
I'm going to say what I said in the other podcast. I was suffering severely from Marvel fatigue,
mhm.
but this show seems to have snapped me out of it. So
Same.
I will say yes. I am looking
Same.
forward to the next one.
Exactly. Same thing. Me too. I was like,
Yeah,
I wasn't interested in watching WandaVision, to be honest with you. And I'm honestly not that interested, or not interested, but I'm not as excited to watch any of the Marvel properties coming out this year, like including Black Widow. I know it's gonna be
yeah,
awesome, but I'm not super excited because again, I do have like Marvel fatigue. But this show is like, oh man, this is kind of interesting. I want to see
yeah.
how they're doing this.
Like the way we even kind of summarized it all last week was, I think the gist of it, and like AJ, Eli, tell me if you agree, and Walt, I think said this also. Like it was like we're not like super in love with it yet. I mean, our average probably rating I think last week was a 7.5. I think Eli gave it a 7, AJ gave it an 8, I gave it a 7.5, and Walt gave it a 7.5. But like you mentioned earlier, Wolfie, like there's something really really great about how different it is, and it's also like we can see this going somewhere that's really really interesting. Like there's some anticipation where we're like it's not the best thing in the world, but like the seeds that it's kind of sowing for the rest of the show
Yeah.
are really really cool and really really
Right.
interesting if you're a fan. That was kind of how we summed it up. I mean, Eli, did
Okay.
you kind of agree with that assessment also? Because this is one of the few
Yeah.
things you didn't hate.
Yeah, I didn't hate this at all. I mean, I think this
That's so interesting.
with the three episodes we have, right? Three?
Yep,
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. We're at 3.
Yeah.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
has a lot of potential. And yes, I didn't exactly have MCU fatigue. Um I did enjoy Endgame a
Because you're a
lot.
kid.
Yeah, I'm a kid. And
But anyway,
I didn't have as much fatigue as you guys either, so I would
yeah.
somewhat agree. But because it's
So,
been a while since we've seen some MCU stuff, so I was excited
Mhm.
for
yeah.
it. Hmm.
So when I came into this again, as I did Wonder Woman, I had some really high expectations, and yeah, it
Okay.
currently right now
Well,
it has lived up to it.
But wait. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
oh damn, we got not kid Eli. Not kid Eli has entered the chat.
He grew up to give you some real adult opinions. What's up? Tell us, Eli.
Um, I'm sorta afraid
Mhm.
of
Four?
how different this is because what's coming out, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm afraid that they're gonna continue this and they're gonna continue to do this.
Why is that
That's the
bad?
only thing.
I don't think that it's a
Continue to
bad
do
thing.
this. What do you
Yeah.
mean by that?
Like they're gonna get into like the crazy and ridiculous stuff that they are now, right?
Mm,
I don't
it-
think it's going to be to this extreme.
me neither.
Yeah, but
I honestly, actually, I think that the multiverse stuff is going to be more extreme. I mean, we're talking about multiverse stuff. The thing with this, though, is that I think that, like, here's my thing. I believe that we're getting into House of M.
yeah, I do
100%.
too.
I think everybody sort of
Right.
agrees with that.
Everybody agrees, right? But like this is
Yeah.
exactly it. She's having a mental breakdown. Now the thing is that with House of M, she had that breakdown because her kids died, right?
No.
In
Yeah.
House of M, yeah, it was because her kids died, right?
Yes.
But we don't have that in the MCU. She didn't have any kids yet. But what did she did have that she lost was Vision. So I think they're telling the House of M story, but through her mental breakdown for losing Vision, and she's creating a warped reality to have Vision back in her life. You know,
Yeah,
have Vision, have the household hit with Vision, have kids with him, have like a happy family, happy life, and all that stuff.
and
Yeah.
she's
So
trapping
she
both
has like
time.
this warped surrounding and warped reality, and I think that you know, Storm or Shield or whatever outside sources, they're trying to contain it
Yeah,
and trying to infiltrate for we don't know why. We don't know if they're trying. It seems like somebody's trying to save her, clearly,
Mhm.
right?
yeah, and
Who though? That's
Here's
the
all-
that's
That's
another
what we
good
don't know.
question.
Here's also the other thing.
Mhm.
I think they're not trying to save. Well, I do think that they're trying to save her and they're trying to contain her, but they're probably trying to save the town too. Because I don't think that's part of like the fantasy. I think she's actually trapping the town inside her.
Yes, yeah. Because I think that she's warping
Yeah.
all the people in that town.
Yeah, because
For
they
sure,
show the name
for
of the
sure.
town. What is it? Westview, outside when
Yeah,
Geraldine gets ejected from the Wandavision reality into the real reality.
Right,
Right.
right.
They show the same town name, and you can see a house, like houses, kind of in the background.
And again, we like clearly like they have a perimeter set up around like this town. So like Storm is. I think that what it is that Storm might be there to have their own agenda. I think that Agnes and her represent. No, they don't represent Storm. Well, I think that
Sword.
there's obviously
Sword.
two. I think that there's two. I think that it's two separate factions fighting against each other.
Yeah.
I think that someone is trying to save Wanda, while whoever's out there on the perimeter is trying to take advantage of the situation or have their own agenda with her and all that stuff.
We got one pretty fairly definitive clue, at least with at least not totally definitive, but the voice that comes through the radio, I think in episode 2, like Wanda,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he
who's
comes
doing
in
this to
episode
you?
3 too at the end.
And then episode 3 as well, actually.
Yeah.
That's definitely, or that totally sounds distinctively like Randall Park, who's been in the MCU before. He's like an FBI agent, I think, in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and he's supposedly cast as a sword agent in this one.
Sword.
So,
I don't know why I'm saying Storm. Sorry.
yeah, no. I totally got the like the meaning of sword wrong last week, so don't feel so bad. But yeah, like I think that's at least definitively one side. It's probably sword that's most likely trying to help Wanda. And the question is Hydra involved, or is that just like her subconscious from like her being abused and like tortured, and like her power is basically coming from Hydra experiments? Is that her subconscious there, or are they involved somehow
know.
still?
Yeah, there are
I
like
don't
a
know.
lot of Hydra drops.
Right. But it could be just somebody connected to Hydra also. And obviously the big theory that everyone else has is that it's Mephisto somehow. and that Agnes
Oh
is
my
Agatha
god! If it's
Harkness.
I don't
oh my
think
god!
so.
I don't
I
know if
don't think
that's
so
the one
though, but like
too.
that would be amazing. I really do think that they're just going with like House of M. If it's House of M, it'll be Mephisto in there.
Right.
And if they do that, this would be the best way to bring the mutants into the MCU though.
They
I
have
don't
had
see
like
a better
little.
way.
Okay, so I just want to ask you guys one thing, and then like we can move on to some other like things, but I have to get this out of the way because last week I mentioned like I spoke to somebody here after we saw the episode. This guy named Tony, and he's basically thinking that this is setting up Wanda to be the villain of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm wondering if you think that's the case, and I'm wondering if you think, as he does, which is a fairly solid
Hmm.
theory and a theory that's going around, if like the devil in the details, the little moments where they're hinting at it possibly being Mephisto, is that a red herring? Is that just leading us in the wrong direction, or is Mephisto actually going to show up in the
I mean, I
MCU?
really want Mephisto to show up. I think Mephisto can totally be the Thanos of the Disney Plus MCU series and stuff like that.
Mhm.
For sure. And I think that you can totally bring Mephisto through Doctor Strange and the multiverse.
Well, in Doctor Strange, yes, but I don't think so much for WandaVision, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't
For
know because
me, it seems a little far fetched.
What would be who would be the alternative sort of like big bad of WandaVision? Is it Wanda?
Well, I like the idea that we had last time. I don't know which one of us suspected it, but there's someone in the comics who trains Wanda and is also like a
Yeah.
Hydra agent. And we suspected it was the blonde lady that she kind of has that whole clicky confrontation with.
Dottie. Dottie is
Yes.
her name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't recall the name of the character, but there have been hints that she is somebody that's central to Wanda, a character that I'm not as familiar with. I think Walt actually brought that up last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So your opinion hasn't really
And it
changed.
would make sense with all the Hydra drops too.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. What other theories are
I don't
there
know. I
besides
really
those?
think it's going to be Mephisto. I really think that's going to be Mephisto.
I
It just makes
I
sense. It makes
actually
sense with Wanda.
think I actually think Mephisto is going to show up, but not yet. I do agree with that to a certain extent, but like my whole thing is that when we've made some of these predictions in the last couple of years, it seems like like definitely the MCU, Kevin Feige, and everybody who's doing the overarching story is pulling from other Marvel comics, but they're pulling details like much more disparate threads. I don't know, like basically like they're this story that we're talking about with, like I said, Wiccan and Speed, Billy and Tommy, that's a story that's connected to Mephisto in the comics. So that's why everybody thinks that that's why he's going to show up. But the way that they've pulled details from totally different places to make movies like Endgame and Infinity War and all of that, that's why I am somewhat skeptical. And that's why I think maybe like Kevin Feige and them are pulling the wool over our eyes. I like that theory. It's like
Hmm.
Mephisto's coming and we're hinting at it, but he's not going to show up here at all, and maybe not until Doctor Strange, or maybe not until even after that. Maybe we'll get this revealed in like a couple movies after Doctor Strange that he was the one kind of pulling the strings behind all of this, but we might not see him at any point yet.
Nah,
Wait, hold up.
I'll make a
What?
prediction right here. I'll make a prediction right here.
What is
Mephisto will
what is
show up
it? Mm-hmm.
in like the last episode, probably in one scene, the
Mm-hmm.
same way that we got the Dark Saber in the Mandalorian.
But there's no second season of WandaVision though, at least not confirmed.
Right, but they're gonna, but if Mephisto is gonna be the one thing that they're gonna tie WandaVision to Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Wait, but
Alright.
what's hinting at Mephisto exactly?
The
I think I
devil in
kind
the
of missed that.
details. The June 6th date that Agnes keeps bringing up is the date of the first Salem witch trials, which is a satanic connected thing. The fact again that this storyline has been done in the comics already, where
Yeah, that's what I was
basically in
gonna
the
say.
comics
It's
it's
more the
like
history.
Mephisto
Yeah,
tricks Wanda, Mephisto
yeah,
and Agatha Harkness, who people think is Agnes, Catherine Hahn's character, trick Wanda into having kids that are basically
yeah.
like
Hmm.
Omen kids, You know what I mean? Like they're demon spawn.
That's why it's like with the
Right.
twins. That's what made the twins.
Right.
Her whole thing, and
And then she really
Mephisto's
has
also
those
one of
kids
her.
after that. She really has
Yeah,
a Wiccan and Speed there. They're not demonic later on,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
But
that's
it's
why
just,
people
but
are
to
thinking that.
sorry. Yeah, no. To
No,
me,
go
it's
ahead.
just that like Mephisto is one of like in Wanda's actual comics. Mephisto is one of her main bad guys, so it just makes sense.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought Doctor Strange. That was one of Doctor Strange main. Doctor
Well, yeah. I
Strange's
mean,
main.
No, that
just like
Doctor
Kingpin
Strange
is
is
like
mainly Dormammu.
He also
is
fights
Yeah.
Dormammu, but
Mephisto.
it's also
Well,
Mephisto.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
can.
why again, that's why it makes sense, right? Because like it's like what's the common bad guy between the two of them? If we have Doctor Strange coming after, it's
Yeah.
gonna be Mephisto, I think, and it
Like
makes sense because
any
Mephisto has
magical
that.
hero in Marvel
Yeah,
comics like deals with Mephisto pretty much eventually.
yeah, exactly.
Because he's like on top of a lot of that, like the evil magic and the evil juju and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited for like the coming episodes. I
Mhm.
think that this is really really refreshing, and I'm enjoying it so far. So, do you guys want to give a rating on the episode itself,
Yeah.
or
Go for
not? I mean, we can
Go
totally
for it.
skip it and just
A rating.
Eli, what's your rating?
You have a 7 to the
Mm.
series so far, I think, last week as a reminder. So that'll be
Mm.
that's where you can describe it from. That's
Judging
your,
on. Yeah, judging on potential.
Mhm.
8 out of 10.
This past episode. Nice.
8.1 out of 10.
No 0.1s.
You can only do 0.5.
You can only do halves.
8.5 then.
It's getting too
Okay.
granular at that point.
Okay. AJ?
I'm actually going to give it an 8. This was definitely a step up. I really like that part where because there was a part in the episode where like they have a rewind type session again, and Vision's like, wait, something's actually going up. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna be all good and great. And I went and looked at Walt, and I was like, hey, did you rewind it? Did I miss something? And he's like,
Yeah.
I didn't touch a thing. I was like, oh, okay, so, well, oh, awesome. And I just like the way that was done. So it's gone really good so far. So I'm giving it an 8.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Jose?
So I gave it a 7.5 for the first 2 episodes last week. I thought the second episode was a little bit better than the first. I thought they were both good. I thought they were both intriguing. I like steal a lot of my girlfriend's ideas, but I actually haven't seen a lot of Hitchcock, and she described it as sort of like a Hitchcock vibe,
Okay.
which from what I've seen I think is kind of true. There's those moments where like reality kind of gets really weird, and one of my favorite moments from this episode is again when Vision is starting to understand what's going on. Those moments are really really interesting when he's like, Wanda, I think there's something wrong here, there's something going on here, and then
Yeah.
it rewinds, it does that rewind, right? And then like the moment when Herb has that like glitch where he's like basically like sawing through the fence, like the brick fence, all those weird moments, like if it weren't for those weird moments, actually all the like sitcom-y stuff wouldn't land as well, I think. But because the sitcom-y stuff also, like, I think it bears mentioning that apparently Dick Van Dyke was a consultant on some of these, which is really cool. I mentioned that last week as well,
That's
but I
awesome.
think we got to mention it again, which is awesome. And the first episode, like you mentioned earlier, has a live studio audience, and like they've had laugh tracks, which is just adding to like all that kind of aesthetic, which is really cool. But yeah, like the potential continues to grow and it continues to pay off, and the fact that there are all these great theories going around, and it seems like a lot of people are really enjoying it, and like, that makes me feel good too, like when a lot of people are kind of uniformly enjoying this, like when The Mandalorian, like everybody loves it, you know what I mean? There's no like fan hate or weirdness going in opposite directions. But yeah, like to kind of cap off on a relatively long way of putting it, like this episode was maybe better than the second, which was better than the first. So I would give it an 8 as well. Similar rating, and I can't wait to see where it continues to go. And I have to just to say one last thing. I heard that it was going to originally be six episodes. I'm really glad they made it 9 because the pacing I think is going to be
Hmm.
so much better as a
Yeah,
result.
for sure.
Imagine if you got like kind of those first 2 episodes mashed together and maybe like a little bit of the third episode, the pacing wouldn't feel as good as it has been so far. So I think there's a special mention to like whoever made that decision, whatever editor or producer, like that was a smart decision, I think.
Nice.
All right. So I didn't give my rating on the first 2 episodes clearly because I wasn't on the podcast, but I'm gonna just rate all 3 together. Kind of since it's 9 episodes, I think that it makes sense to rate them in batches of 3. I think that so far, I would actually give it a 9. I think that like as a whole, I got to see it like all 3 episodes back to
Nice.
back, and I think this is one of those shows that's gonna benefit from binge watching, right? Because I think that like if I were to see just the first episode and then the second episode later on and then the third episode like after a week, I think that like it may not like land as well. But since I got
Yeah.
to see all 3 episodes back to back, especially with the third episode kind of helping to make the first 2 episodes make sense, the first 2 episodes felt a lot felt like they it just felt good. Like the first when I saw the first episode, I was a little questioning, then got into the second one right away. Also was like I enjoyed it. It was funny, it was cool. A couple of tidbits, the whole like reality warping at the end had me really intrigued, and then the third episode made
Yeah.
those first 2 episodes really kind of make sense, right?
That was how
um
Marvel apparently released the review reel. It was the first 3 episodes, so it makes more sense based
okay.
on what you're saying as well.
Yeah. So for me, it's a 9. I mean, honestly, there isn't anything that I can say negatively, so it might even be a 10. Just because I like everything that's going. Time will tell
Wow,
though, because I need to see the rest of the story to see if this first 3 episodes actually does make sense.
there's no
But
like
there's nothing
even thing
negative
you
to me.
kind of half don't like at all. That's
No, there was
impressive.
nothing that I didn't like. I thought the acting was great. Costume design and set design was awesome.
That's
I
true
think
though.
that the pacing of the episodes themselves was really well. If you think about it, think about this. Think
Mhm.
about the fact that we have 2 actors that are portraying characters from a time and era in television that's 50, 60 years removed. And they're portraying them as if that's right now. That's the theme and the trend right now. I mean, imagine how difficult it is to like play characters from that time, like the entire episode. Never done it before. It's not contemporary for them. The fact that they pulled it
Mhm.
off and made me feel like I was watching an I Love Lucy episode, that's like it's transporting me.
I think Elizabeth Olsen deserves. I mean, Paul Bettany certainly gotten his credit, but Elizabeth Olsen, excuse me, deserves a
Right.
fantastic
Yes.
amount of credit too because her
Absolutely.
performance has been great. Like pulling off
Right. Yes.
the
Absolutely.
Lucy
Absolutely.
character or I think it's Samantha from Bewitched, pulling off those
Yeah.
characters and
Yeah.
then pulling off like a
Well,
Brady-ish
then that's the
character.
thing too. Like
And great.
off of those shows, off of those episodes, off of those shows themselves, that we're talking about like the female lead, where the husband ends up playing kind of like the the sidekick slash comic relief. Like in the first episode, it was like the husband that's dealing with trying to impress his boss. The second episode is
Yeah.
the husband dealing with like his stomach issues and having and then Wanda making sure that like she saves the day with him kind of being drunk doing a magic show. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but again, like the fact that they're able to portray these like episodes and transport me to a time in television that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, really, there's nothing negative for me to say.
And the other
Ultimately, it's
thing
gonna, yeah.
the other thing that I have to mention very quickly too is that like Elizabeth Olsen, this is the second character on TV because her last role on TV, quote unquote, was a Facebook show called Sorry for Your Loss. And it's 2 characters in a row where she's dealing with grief. And she's kind of like
Ah,
knocking it out of the park because in Sorry
yeah,
for Her Loss, she's a widower. And in this, I mean, most of us at least agree, even if we don't know where it's going, like a lot of this is like how she's dealing with her grief.
right.
And like
We
those
know
little
because we
moments where
know
she
that
steps
because
back
Well,
is really interesting.
widower, I think that's actually the husband.
I'm sorry if I got
Widow
that incorrect.
is, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. She's lost somebody in both of these shows, so she's like really pulling that character off really well.
Yeah.
Kudos
so
to her. Kudos to her. She's getting better and
anyway,
better in the role as Scarlet Witch.
so those are my thoughts. It really could be a 9 or a 10. to me, like I guess I can even just say a 10 because I don't see anything wrong yet, and I
Nice.
had a lot of fun watching all 3 episodes.
Nice.
So I just don't. I really don't. The thing is, the only reason I don't really give it a 10, I guess, is because I don't have the complete story yet. So I don't know if this is gonna make sense, right? Because they can totally bomb it, and then now all of a sudden, or I find a plot hole or something like that, and all of a sudden now it doesn't make sense, right? So it's hard to judge it, but generally I'm very very happy. So
Is there a favorite episode so far, or is it all like really just super high
and
level?
it's tough because each episode is very very different, from each other. I really like the magic show. I thought it was awesome. um
That was a big highlight last week that we talked about for everyone.
yeah, I thought the magic show was really really cool. I also like how they do like the whole like animated showing the gum and the gears and stuff. um and the last episode with all the color and all that, like I don't know, like each one stand on its own. So I don't know if I could pick one out, because again, like I don't think that any one episode can work without watching all 3 so far.
Mhm.
So
Okay, I'm really glad you're enjoying it, because we're all enjoying it. At the very least, everybody's really really excited to see where it goes.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm-hmm. All right.
all right, so I think that's gonna be the show for this week.
I think so.
Tune in next week to get more reviews on the next episode of Wandavision. So we'll be doing that, but at the same time, other geeky, nerdy stuff that we're going to talk about. And once again, thank you guys for joining the Get Geek Squad podcast. Like, rate, share, and subscribe.
Please.
Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, DM us, comment. Hate on us if you want, whatever. Just engage however you can. And please just spread the wealth and spread the love. Really, really appreciate you guys.
Yes, and welcome back once again to everyone. And Gabe, welcome back. Wolfie, welcome back. It's good to have you back on the podcast. And well, what else can we say, guys? Stay geeky. Stay geeky.
Gogeta is better than and Baby.
James Spader.
Peace.